Welcome to the Maddow World Cup Corner. I'm Lucas Vasquez.
And I'm Casey O'Brien, and this week our focus shifts to the controversy surrounding the use of turf in the World Cup and the lead up to Monday's game.
Since it was announced that FIFA planned to have all 2015 World Cup matches played on artificial turf instead of traditional grass pitches, a group of 50 national team players from 12 countries have signed a petition urging FIFA to use grass fields.
The players are concerned about the way the surface will impact the games because of the fact that the ball rolls faster and bounces higher on turf than it does on grass, which changes the dynamic of the game and the style of play. Players are also concerned about the fact that the world's top women's soccer tournament is being held on what many are calling an inferior surface. The hard surface also sees players running a higher risk of injury due to the hardness of the surface compared to a grass pitch.
Last week, the Rachel Maddow Show had Megan Rapinoe on the show, and Rachel asked her about her feelings regarding the turf controversy. Here's a clip from that interview.
There has been this other drama about the turf issue in Canada. How is that going to affect the World Cup this year?
I think we've adjusted as well as we can. I mean, there's certain things that you can't adjust where it's harder on your body. We have an extra game. There's 7 games, hopefully, to get to the final this year. So, I mean, we can do as much as we can, but, I'm not 22 anymore, so it'll be a little bit harder. But, we filed a lawsuit and got a lot of press on it, and I think what we have done is there won't ever be another Women's World Cup on turf.
Is the worry injury, or is it more complicated than that?
I think it's both. I think there definitely is an injury worry. I mean, it's obviously harder on your body. But I think just the quality of the game, it's just, the top games aren't played on turf. They would never even blink at putting that for any kind of top-level men's game. To have, the biggest event in something that is for some people a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, to have it on a second-rate surface it's disappointing, and it's disrespectful.
Well, Rapinoe wasn't the only U.S. player who had concerns about the use of turf in the World Cup.
Yeah, LaRue, Abby Wambach, and Alex Morgan also cited concerns that in their lawsuit that they're involved in, that there's a double standard for the women's game where they get to play on turf and men get to play on grass.
Yeah, I mean, I know from personal experience playing on turf, the injuries are worse. I mean, I know players who have torn their ACL on turf, who have ankle rolls on turf, and I personally have gotten a lot of turf burn, and I know how much that can hurt. So I know Sydney LaRue has posted a couple pictures of turf burn and how it's not fair, but it'll be interesting to see how it affects the U.S.
And especially for Alex Morgan, who's already dealing with a pretty serious injury, she decided that she has some worries about how it takes a very long time to recover from playing on turf, and inside the World Cup where there's not a lot of time to recover and where there's so many games to be played.
Right, because the turf is such a harder surface than grass is.
Yeah, and unfortunately the lawsuit has been dropped, so the rest of the World Cup will indeed be played on turf.
Well, at least now the U.S. can focus on their first game in Group D and hopefully focus on getting a win. The U.S. will be making their debut at the 2015 World Cup against Australia in Winnipeg at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time this coming Monday, June 8th.
After a worrisome goalless tie against South Korea on Saturday in New Jersey, the U.S. will look to come out with a strong win against Australia and set the tone for the rest of the tournament.
So in that game versus South Korea, it was really interesting to see when Alex Morgan is not on the field, the entire U.S. attack kind of changes, and they aren't able to create as many goal-scoring opportunities as they are with her on the field.
Yeah, and we're not too sure if she's going to play in the first game or even the second game in the World Cup. So that's a problem that they're going to have to figure out, how to replace her attacking ability up front and see how they can capitalize on offense against Australia in their first game in the World Cup.
Well, yeah, because Australia's a really good team, right? Aren't they ranked 10th?
They are, and they have a striker called Lisa DeVanna who scored more than 33 times in more than 90 appearances on Australia.
So this is going to be a tough game for Hope Solo and Christy Rampone, the core of the U.S. defense.
Yeah, and they're going to have to use their defensive experience to really neutralize her up top and try to find a way to capitalize on offense to make sure they win the first game.
Well, yeah, because this game versus Australia is kind of a must-win for the U.S. If they get a draw or a loss here, they're going to need to win the next 2 games, and Sweden's going to be their toughest competition in group play, so definitely a win here would help make the next 2 games a little more easy for the U.S.
Don't forget to check in next week for a recap of the U.S. vs. Australia matchup and a preview of the clash between the U.S. and Sweden, the 2 favorites to emerge from Group D.
Thanks for watching the Maddow World Cup Corner.